And he brought up, he said, yeah, I used to love all these guys. I bought the Latrell Sprewell spinner shoes. I thought that was pretty funny.
Really?
I can imagine.
Adam Thielen in those. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he the thing is, he loved Moss. He loved Carter. He loved those 2000 twin teams. But he loved the Garnett, Sprewell, Cassell team that went to the NBA Western Conference Finals. He was telling me about buying the Latrell Sprewell Super Spinner shoes, which I thought was really funny.
Nice. Now you could probably answer this better than I could for sure. In the way that Thielen approaches things, kind of that passing off the credit and not really wanting to be the center of attention, is it Mauer-like? I mean, my impression is Thielen gives you more. He gives you more insight.
He's much better. And I've covered a lot of athletes who play I'm going to be available, but I'm never going to say anything game, which is actually a very savvy game to play. You never make anybody mad. You never blow anybody off. You never get accused of being a stuck-up athlete. And if you can manage to not say anything while doing all the interviews, then you've also protected yourself from ever being a center of controversy. So Derek Jeter did it. He talked every day he was a Yankee, and he never said anything. And Kirby Puckett did it. And I always remember transcribing interviews with Kirby. He would talk a mile a minute, and he'd say things that made people laugh, and then you'd go transcribe what he said, and he said absolutely nothing, which is kind of genius. He made you happy saying nothing. And Mauer really doesn't like talking, and he really doesn't like talking about himself very often. Now, when he was in his prime, sometimes I would get him alone, and he would he's so smart. He sees the game so brilliantly that he would just open up and if you talk to him about the inside baseball stuff, he would just open up and just go on these great jags, But, the typical post-game thing, he was just trying not to say anything he didn't want to say. Thielen takes that model and does very well with it because he answers questions, and you can sit down with him one-on-one, and he's enthusiastic about it, and he's interested, and he says, he never says anything controversial or anything that jumps off the page, but he's conversational. Whereas a lot of these guys, they're doing it just to fulfill the obligation. Thielen, you can actually have a conversation with.
Yeah, and just to let people know, by requirement, NFL players are supposed to be available after every game and once a week if they are requested to talk to the media. Thielen has joined this once a week club with the Vikings where he'll go to the podium and speak. But man, he's available every other day of the week too, at his locker. On Monday, which is not his big day to be in front of all the cameras and everything. We were talking to him for 12 or 15 minutes. And, after that, he goes and he does, Deion Sanders' little deal for NFL Network. And he's getting pulled in a lot of different directions these days. But he still seems like he is willing to talk whenever you want about just about anything. And like you said, he won't, he's not going to say anything controversial, but he is a good talker. And he entertains every question you throw his way.
Absolutely. He's a pleasure to be around. Absolutely. And you know what? If you flip it over and ask, because in our position, it's easy to praise people who talk all the time. They're doing us a favor in a way, but it's also good, smart life management. He might be in the media in the future, and the more he gets practice talking and answering questions, the better he's going to be prepared for that. Plus, people love him in the state. And every time he talks, he's reaching out to those people in some way. It's a very smart thing to do if you don't think of it like it's a nuisance, if you think it's like career building, It's pretty easy to do too, if you do it well.
Well, no doubt. And even if it's not a media gig that he's seeking afterwards, there are sponsorship opportunities and, just corporate speaking, all of that. And he is a good speaker. So, the guy's amazing. He can do so many things so well. Not just football, not just able to have great conversations with people, not just recovering onside kick. He was a state championship golfer, for God's sake. The guy's got it all going on right now.
Yeah, I chatted with him at the Masters a couple of years ago. Let's talk about running and kicking. Do you want to thank Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent in Champlin, Hoaglund. He handles my insurance and Michael Russo's insurance, and he's always easy to get on the phone. You can use the app. You can call the office. You can use the website. So you can work with Tony wherever you are.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoagland. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number one in car insurance since World War II and number one in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
So the running game was interesting against the Eagles. They didn't have Dalvin Cook, and they used the other three backs to just kind of grind out tough yards and keep the Eagles honest, and it worked.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised at how little they're using Latavius Murray. He's playing quite a bit, but he's not getting a ton of carries. And I figured with Dalvin Cook out, he would be the main guy. And it turns out, Rock Thomas was almost more of the guy carrying the ball than Murray was against the Eagles. But also, what DeFilippo's did in the Philadelphia game kind of reminds me of what Pat Shurmur did for the passing game when he took over as offensive coordinator, going to the quick passes because things weren't, being protected well in 2016. Well, now the running game's struggling in 2018. DeFilippo's using Stephon Diggs on end arounds to try to stretch out a defensive line and linebackers that would have been much more aggressive during that game if they hadn't had those early end arounds from Diggs that were gaining yards and really good yards, especially, first down runs and things like that. I'm just impressed with what DeFilippo's been able to do to mask the couple of deficiencies that this offense has, and if he can continue to do that and still work on getting those things better, if the offensive line blocks better, if Dalvin Cook gets healthier, I think they all agree that eventually they want a balanced offense, and Thielen mentioned it too, you need that in the fourth quarter to close out games, and they got a little bit better at it in the fourth quarter of the Philadelphia game. But until they get to that point, I think it is probably going to be a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio for passing to running. And, eventually you hope to get a little bit closer to 50-50, although I think it's always going to be probably a 60-65% passing offense as long as Thielen, Diggs, and Cousins are around.
Absolutely. You think about coaches changing places. DeFilippo goes from, an offense that was cooking last year to now, really, other than the one game, the Vikings offense has done very well this year. Now the Eagles look like they're struggling. Pat Shurmur goes from Diggs and Thielen as his main wide receivers to Odell Beckham. What a change.
Yeah. Like I said before, Thielen and Diggs quick to praise each other, not themselves, and Cousins and DeFilippo, and then you got Odell Beckham calling out the play selections and calling out his quarterback. He is a mess to deal with. And my understanding from one thing that I saw is that interview was supposed to be about tattoos, right?
Yes.
And all of a sudden, they slip one question. Well, maybe they slip more than one question in there, but it was a question about the quarterback, and he just went off on it. And fortunately, the Vikings don't have that type of player around here. They seem to be pretty good about keeping any sort of complaints that they might have internal. And right now, they're especially offensively with a passing game, there's not a lot to complain about.
No, there really isn't. Let's talk about kicking for the Vikings and around the league. We do want to welcome Bite Squad as the newest sponsor of our Talk North podcast network. Bite Squad delivers food from hundreds of Twin Cities restaurants. Order online at bitesquad.com or download their app and get food to your door in minutes. And for a limited time, they're offering free delivery to our listeners on the first order by using the code TALKNORTH. All caps, one word, TALKNORTH. Bite Squad food for your mood delivered. What's going on with Dan Bailey? I thought this guy would at least be more predictable.
I think he'll get there. I don't know how you go from the accuracy that he had in Dallas for a long time. And, one injury kind of screwed him up for a little bit. And I got to believe that as he gets more settled in here, gets further away from that injury, gets more kicks in meaningful games with that injury, that things are going to turn around. But, I thought it was interesting and somewhat unbelievable that Mike Zimmer said on Monday he never had a doubt that Bailey would make that 52-yarder. I don't know how you couldn't have a doubt about it because, after missing 2 out of the first 3 kicks that he had, I think there had to be a lot of doubts about that. But, from what I've seen, there is no issue with, the snaps or the holds or anything like that. I just think Bailey must have gotten into his head a little bit or gotten a little lack of confidence going, but that should all get figured out soon.
Sorry for that. My TV came on in the background. I must have had it paused and it just popped on. And guess what? It was Pat Shermer saying finito about Odell Beckham Jr. questions, which is pretty funny. You know what? I like Pat, and I think he's a very good coach. But it is funny when coaches think they can just silence I'm going to silence the New York media. Just tell them not to talk about Odell Beckham anymore. Yeah, that ain't going to work, coach. You don't have that much power. You're a good guy. I hope you do well, but you don't have that much power. I will say this.
And that's what makes me laugh, too, about, when guys like Mike Zimmer think that the media here are hard to deal with or he doesn't enjoy talking to them and all that. I mean, come on. Go to a New York, a Philadelphia, Chicago. Go there and see how the media is there, how good they are to deal with.
Well, but part of it is it's really not our job to be good to deal with. It's not our job to just give you a back massage, and tell you you're great. It's not that job in any market. And no. I know there are tough reporters in Jacksonville. There are tough reporters in Green Bay. I mean, there's every market is going to have somebody who's going to ask you a tough question. He's probably going to make you uncomfortable. It's part of your job. Part of the reason you get paid millions of dollars is not because you're good at what you do. This is always my analogy about this stuff. There are lots of people who are really good at what they do who don't make much money. There's a great plumber someplace who doesn't make much money. Mike Zimmer doesn't get paid because he's good at what he does. He gets paid because he's good at what he does in a league that is incredibly popular. It's the popularity that makes him rich, not his particular skill set. So, he should be very grateful that people care about what he does.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be making $3 to $5 million a year if he's coaching in the MIAC. No. Even if he's winning championships every year there. No, he's. You're right. It's really part of the job to relay your thoughts on the team through the media to your fans, and whether that's in good times or bad times. So, hopefully. The further along he gets in this, the more he realizes that. But sometimes, in tough times with the team, it has been the opposite, where he has not been real happy about talking about it. And you know what? He gets called out by some fans on it too when he gives the curt, short answers to questions in his press conferences.
And that's the way the fans should look at it. Shouldn't be about us. We're going to do our job, whether the coach likes us, whether fans like us. We're still going to do the job the same way. It's if he doesn't give answers, then he's basically snubbing the fan base. And I know, listen, there are always going to be the fanboys who just defend whatever the team does, but there are a lot of very intelligent fans, intelligent listeners, intelligent readers who want some. I don't like the word accountability. Who want some level of transparency. You're not going to tell people what plays you're going to call on Sunday, but just explain your thinking. It's just good business. And the other thing is, I'm going off another rant here. Boy, an emotional day for me, Tim. The other thing about it is, let's say there wasn't media coverage of the NFL, what's the first thing they would do as an organization? They would beg for coverage, because that's what you see with any league that doesn't get, or any league or any team that doesn't get blanket media coverage. What do? They spend all their time begging for it. Yeah. It's just that once they get it and they become popular and they no longer really need it to sell tickets, that's when the attitude changes.
Yeah, and the funny thing now is that at the NFL level, every team has their own website and maybe their own productions and this and that. And of course, those people are not going to bring up things that